Hey everyone, Jennifer Lee Chan here from NBC Sports Bay Area. It is out, the game status report, and as of right now, doubtful. Jordan Watkins with his ankle, Jordan James with his finger, and then questionable Christian McCaffrey. Christian McCaffrey spoke in the locker room after practice and said he plans on playing. There was no doubt that he would play. And yes, I do believe he will play. But I just want to reiterate, last year he said the same thing. He feels great and he, you know, thought he was going to play last year. And then that led to a whole long, extended week after week, time where he was off, went going on IR. Not saying that that's the case now, but I'm just saying please have cautious optimism about Christian McCaffrey and his status. Now, Kyle Shanahan in his press conference, you can clearly see I'm not up there today, but I watched everything. Kyle Shanahan was careful with his words. I don't think, as some people said, he was upset or that he was trying to pull anything over on anyone. He was just protecting his players, and this is kind of how head coaches are. They just protect their players. They don't have to say any more about details about the injury. When Matt asked him if he was concerned about the level of the injury, he said, questionable concern. So he also said after that, he's like, guys, I'm not going to tell you anything about the injury or any of our players' injuries. They don't have to. After a game, they can tell us if the players got MRIs, but again, they aren't, there are no rules that say coaches have to say, all right, he had an MRI, this is what we saw. A lot of times they do offer that. But there is no rule that they have to be super specific about the injuries. Often, if a guy has an ACL or, they're open about that type of thing. If something comes up and, all right, well, we think it's this. Hey, great. The imaging shows that it's something else, or it shows that it's this. So, a lot of times they'll give us as much information as they can. But at this point, before week one, they just really don't have to say anything else other than he's questionable. So, in practice today, there were only a few players that did not practice, and that was Yetur Gross-Matos, who was limited yesterday and did not practice today. I think they're just being careful with his knee. Uh, Christian McCaffrey did not practice. And then limited participation by Jordan James and his finger, limited participation by Jordan Watkins and his ankle. So the two Jordans limited, no practice for Yetur Gross-Matos or Christian McCaffrey. And after practice, Christian McCaffrey told reporters, he's like, "Hey, I'm proud of myself for pulling myself out of practice." He said he can be in his own worst enemy at times. And, I know Kyle Shanahan gets a lot of criticism. And yes, what he says, he's the head coach, it's the final say. But he does get a lot of criticism for not taking Christian McCaffrey out of the game. It's also Christian McCaffrey not wanting to come out of the game. He is their best option in there. So if your job performance is based on wins, who gives you the best opportunity to make those wins? To get those wins? Christian McCaffrey. So you understand the pressure that Kyle Shanahan's under. You're understanding the pressure that Christian McCaffrey is under to, show that he's still healthy, to show that he can still do it, to make his next contract. So there's all these different things in play. So, as far as what I know, I do believe, and I have reached out to people I do know, and it's cautiousness, and definitely something did happen in practice on Thursday that made Christian McCaffrey say, okay, I need to slow down. I've been, practicing a lot of reps. I need to take it easy because I need to save myself for I mean, it's a marathon. The season is a marathon. So for him to stay healthy for the long haul, he was smart and took himself out of practice. So he doesn't need to practice. I mean, he needs to stay in shape, obviously, football shape, but he doesn't need to be out there for every single rep of practice. And he has been careful. He has had vet rest days, but they're not to the regular vet rest days that we've seen in the past because it's still week one. So once we get to week two, week three, you're going to see guys like Trent Williams and George Kittle and Christian McCaffrey take days off, like on a Wednesday or a Thursday. Nick Bosa, those guys take those days off. Fred Warner doesn't as much, but he may this year. We'll kind of see how it goes. But generally, all of those guys after they get into the meat of the season, some of them week two, I mean, Trent Williams will take a rest day on week two. He took a rest day this week. So some of those, veteran guys will take their days because they need to make it through the entire season as much as possible. So, um, concern from me about Christian McCaffrey's injury, I think it's something to definitely monitor. I think that there's definitely something there. Otherwise, he wouldn't have taken himself out of practice, and the 49ers, wouldn't have put him on the injury report. And there is a practice report, and that's where he did not practice. Yetur Gross-Matos did not practice. And then there's a game status report, and that only had 3 players on it. So for the team that had so many injuries, it's not bad. It's just not fortunate that it's one of your best players is on the list. So only 3 players on the game status report, which is really pretty good considering how many injuries happened throughout training camp. So just Jordan James, Jordan Watkins, doubtful, and they really don't need them to play. Now that Jauan Jennings is back, Jordan Watkins doesn't need to rush back. Um, the only one, Jordan James, but Isaac Rondo is healthy. Brian Robinson said he's feeling confident. Yes, he's only been out there for a few practices, but just give him the ball and he can run up the middle. But he is getting a whole, kind of a mental hold over the system and what they need him to do. But it's going to be a work in progress for Brian Robinson. He's not going to go out there and have, 30 carries. He's going to be eased into it. They want him to be successful. And, it's just recently that he came over from the Washington Commanders, who he says he does have a little chip on his shoulder about the trade. And I think how things went before he was traded. So he's a guy that, was in a contract year. Guys tend to play really well in their contract year. And that's what I'm also expecting from Jauan Jennings. It's a contract year. He got some incentives, which he was very happy about. But really, he needs to put together a second season. He needs to show the NFL that it wasn't just an anomaly, that he had a great 2024. He's got to have a great 2025 to show that he deserves a 15 to $20 million a year contract. He's 28 years old. And so for him to prove that he's got a lot left to give, he's got to put together a second good season. Previously, yes, I think a lot of teams would look at Jauan Jennings, would want to have him on their roster, but it's also got to be a team that's got a similar system to Kyle Shanahan. So that's, the Rams, it's the Packers, it's Houston, it's Seattle. So it's not every single team. Um, but Jauan Jennings, if he puts it together another season where he has 7 or 8 to 1,000 yards receiving, then yes, he puts himself in another level. It's, 15 to $20 million a year. And some other team will probably be willing to pay a little bit more than the Niners will, I would think. Now, Jauan Jennings said he's open. Um, I mean, actually, he didn't say he was open. Kyle Shanahan said he was open. Jauan Jennings said when he was asked about if he still wanted to do a long-term deal with the 49ers, John Lynch said he was open. Jauan Jennings said, hey, just taking it one day at a time. So he didn't say he was open, but he said he's taking it one day at a time, which I would think, if the 49ers offered him a bunch of money, that he would stay. But I think also he wants to make more money. And you look at how much 49ers are doling out in contracts to Brock Purdy, Fred Warner, George Kittle, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Do they offer him enough money for him to stay? I don't know. We'll see what happens. But first of all, he's got to put together a great 2025 season. So he made it through the week. He's not on the injury report. He was full participation. He just needs to get his wind back. He needs to get his legs underneath him because he's not in great football shape yet because he wasn't out there for the last 5 weeks, 6 weeks. So we'll see what we see from Jauan Jennings on Sunday and see how he looks and how often he comes off the field. Lots to watch in this week 1 matchup. So happy Friday, everyone. I'm traveling to Seattle tomorrow morning, super early. Matt Mayock is going to be in the studio, so stay tuned with both of us. If you're in Seattle and you see me, say hi. I'm going to be probably with family, but definitely reach out and say hi. I'd love to meet some of y'all that are out there. If you're traveling, I wrote a story on NBC Sports Bay Area, few spots to check out that I'm going to check out. Some of my favorites. It's the JLC hit list. So 53% red in Lumen Field. So we'll see if that holds up. I have a feeling it's going to be a lot of red, but is it going to be more than half? We'll see. All right. Hope to see you up there in the Pacific Northwest. If not, stay tuned with me here. I'm going to be on the pregame show and the postgame show, and that's Sunday. And looking forward to seeing you all out there. All right. Talk to you soon. Bye.